Marshall Almroad here. People have been asking, okay, how big is your library? You don't really understand what you're talking about for a library. So I'm just going to take you for a little quick tour of part of my library. So I'm going to start here. This section right over here, we have, it starts out with Mormon Doctrine, first edition, second edition. I've got some of the, main books up here. The Seer by Orson Pratt, some Brigham Young, teachings of Brigham Young, and a few, other things like leatherback bound volumes of Jesus the Christ and Articles of Faith. Right here it starts with Joseph Smith, the teaching prophet Joseph Smith, goes to Brigham Young, and the personal writing of Joseph Smith, different things like this. We actually have manuscripts. We have Wilford Woodruff. So basically go through all the prophets all the way down, and we get into Ezra Taft Benson here, Gordon B. Hinckley here. And so then down here, a lot of the apostles, James Talmage, Joseph F. Smith, the prophet, and so you get Whitstow, different people there. And then I have History of the Church. This is called the Documentary History of the Church. It's 7 volumes with an index. This is the Comprehensive History of the Church. It's 6 volumes with an index. I have Mountain Meadows Massacre by Juanita Brooks, which is a key book on the Mountain Meadows Massacre. I have John D. Lee, his memoirs. That's Mountain Meadow Massacre. And then I have No Man Knows My History by Fawn Brody. She was the niece of President David O. McKay. He wanted to have an accurate history, so he asked her to do it since she was a well-known author, and so he gave her permission to go through the vault and look at all the history and write an accurate history. When she presented the material to him, see, you can't print this, and she said, why not? Because it's not accurate. She says, I documented it all. So she got excommunicated for actually printing the truth about Joseph Smith. So then we go down here, we have more Mormon doctrines. We have Bruce McConkie. He was the last real Mormon scholar. And the Promised Messiah, the Messiah series, commentaries on New Testament and Old Testament. And so that's kind of in there. And this one's an interesting one, I think. Bernard P. Brockbank eventually became an apostle, as I recall. The Commandments and Promises of God. And so it's all throughout here, all the different commandments and promises of God. An interesting book because you have to keep all those promises. And even if you're ignorant of them, it doesn't matter. You still have to keep them. So more books down here. Another Mountain Meadow Massacre, a couple of those. Mormon Corporate Empire exposed the Mormon Church of all the money that it has and all the power that it has. And so there's a bunch of other books down there that are doctrinal books. Then we come up here, and this is the General Discourses. This is Brigham Young's and his cronies, his sermons, and so it's quite the extensive volumes there. And then we have the original Book of Mormon. We have the gold copy. I haven't shown you this yet, but on this is the Anton's transcript. And if you're really good at this, you can actually see a capital H, maybe a sideways question mark and a sideways exclamation point without the points. I don't know if you read this, but this is a 4 with a comma, like a comma in front, up above it, a 6 with a little asterisk, and a fancy T, A, a cross, upside down cross, couple of parentheses, only one side, 8 minus 1. I mean, if you could read this, you could be the next prophet of the Mormon Church. Because you could read the reformed Egyptian hieroglyphics that Joseph Smith said no one could read. This is the Book of Mormon from Spokane World's Fair. And in the front, they make a mistake in this one, which is kind of interesting. They put a hill here in the front. General view of the sacred city of Machu Picchu, Jewel of the Andes, believed to have been built over 2,000 years ago. Wrong. They make up the date. That's not true. So they had to take that out. The modern ones don't have that in it. So that's kind of a rare one. If you can find those, it's good to put in your library. Then we have different versions of the triple combination, the quad. And I have Bill Hickman's Confessions. This is an original second printing. And Bill Hickman was Brigham Young's destroying angel. And he killed people for Brigham. And so that's a really interesting book, a really good read. He talks about the people he killed, and no one did anything to him because they were afraid of him. Orson Pratt Works, that's a pretty rare book. Addressed to All Believers in Christ. So it's interesting things that he brings up because he sees things that are wrong. Then we have the original Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants and Book of Commandments put out by the Reorganized Church. We have the inspired version. This is reorganized, or Held House is their printing, and so this is actually the inspired version. And I actually have an inspired version right over here. This is actually a first printing original inspired version here. So actually, let's see what the date is on it. 1867. So that's one of the original ones. So kind of hard to find those, but I found one of those. So I don't know what that's worth. But anyway, as you go through this, you're going to see more stuff. I call this section here the Billy Grahams of Mormonism. You've got the Woodstow Talmage, Joseph Smith, and Joseph Fielding Smith, and you've got the teachings and their teachings. So these are kind of the staples of Mormonism. And this is, again, paperback history of the church. And then as you go through here, I've got Miracle Forgiveness. This is a reprint by Wood from the uncut sheets of the Book of Mormon. So he went there and found the uncut sheets. There's a lot of history in this, so you might want to pick this up. Joseph Smith Begins His Work, Volume 1 by Wilfred C. Wood. And then Volume 2 is the Book of Commandments and the Doctrine and Covenants. So he has that in Volume 2. So very interesting to put in your library. Those have been around a long time. These particular seers are pretty rare because these were put out by Deseret Book, and this is Thelma Granny Gear's copy with the little things in here. When she died, I got her copy of that. So that's the Seer by Orson Pratt. And so you look through all here. This is more of my rare books. I have a paperback Messiah series down there, and then I have the BYU studies down here with the different things on the Egyptian hieroglyphics that I did not show you. But it gets a lot deeper if you want to get deeper. But that's the BYU studies down there. Up here, we have the Foundation for Ancient Research and Mormon Studies, Brigham Young University. And this is the printer's manuscript here. And it's printed differently because this particular one is no photocopies. They just typed it. So I bought this one first, then they came out with a beautiful full color photocopy, and I thought, okay, this is almost worthless to me now. It was expensive when I bought it. And the original manuscript of the Book of Mormon, I presume the church will come out with this later on. This too does not have any photocopies in color. So it's still interesting to analyze it. And then Royal Scalzon does his little analysis of textual variants of the Book of Mormon. This is when I met Royal, not through a friend. I've actually not met him, but he was checking the three editions edited by the prophet Joseph Smith, 1830, 1837, and 1840. And I pointed out there was an 1842, and they didn't know about that. So they looked at the 1842 and discovered it looks like it's just a reprint of the 1840. So we don't see any changes in that so far. And then we have the Encyclopedia of Mormonism. This was supposed to replace Mormon Doctrine by Bruce McConkie, and so they admitted a bunch more stuff in there, which I didn't go into. Then you have the 1830 Book of Mormon. This is the one that Deseret put out. 1837 is the most rare. 1840 is over here. 1842 and 1879. So those are the versions that Joseph Smith edited. So you've seen some of that. I have Young Woman's Journal. The volume 3 is the most rare, where it talks about the men in the moon. So I actually have that one. I'll show you the picture of it real quick, so you get to see kind of what's going on in here in the library. So some things you just go, well, this is kind of weird, but this is official. This is the predecessor of the Relief Society. So here it is. This is a little drawing that they made of the Earth with the poles, and there's little knobs on each pole because that way the sun can get to the people at the North and South poles. So that's a little thing Joseph Smith said. So if you're looking at the Young Woman's Journal, they don't always show you that one. But then he talks about the men in the moon and how they live as Quakers. And so this is the actual book here, Young Woman's Journal, volume 3. So I looked and looked and looked. Probably took me 25 years to find this book.
Can you bring up that page and just, point to the text, because I was getting zoomed in on that.
Okay.
Where it's talking about the men on the moon. bring up the page number. That would be
63.
awesome.
Okay. The Inhabitants of the Moon. And as far back as 1837, I know that the prophet said the moon was inhabited by men and women, the same as the earth, and they did live to be greater years, generally the age of 1,000 years, and they are about near 6 feet tall, and they dress like the Quaker style.
Quaker style. This is Young Women's Journal.
Volume 3.
Volume 3, 263.
And we'll just do a little authentication of this. It's printed by George Hugh Sons Incorporated, Salt Lake City, published by the Young Ladies Mutual Improvement Association of Zion. So the Young Women's Journal. So it is the predecessor to the Relief Society. So it's official.
Awesome.
Okay. And the Improvement Era, this is volume 2. I've got a volume 1 someplace around here. And this is the predecessor to the Ensign magazine. So this is hardbound, turn of the century. Volume 2 is about the turn of the century. So just all kinds of stuff in here that you probably are not going to find very much. This is volume 1 here without the cover. And a contributor is an earlier version, I think, of the kids' stuff. So I have the contributors in there. And so then here, these are early Book of Mormons, pre-1920, Pearl of Great Prices, Doctrine and Covenants, kind of rare stuff. And then this is my reprint of the first edition. I bought just about a 1940-ish cover, took the guts out and put the reprint in it so that I can bring it around and it's not breaking and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of nice. So I actually made that one. This is a 1830 Bible, which 1829 I think it is. So it's one that would be around when Joseph was around. And then we just have I haven't talked about anti-Mormons. Now, they would say back in the 1800s, there's anti-Mormons. This is the Green Beetle book, they call it. The Mysteries and Crimes of Mormonism by a guy named Beetle. And it talks about polygamy and that kind of stuff. So it exposes Mormonism back in the 1800s. This one here is Fanny Stenhouse, Tell It All, Woman's Life in Polygamy. So that's fun. And then you have another one. This is by Anne Elizabeth Young, wife number 19, Full Expose of Mormonism. And so she escaped Brigham and exposed this and printed it out later on. And there's another Polygamy, Life of Crimes, another Green Beetle book. This is a newer one. So, and then you have a really good book here, Mormon Enigma, Emma Hale Smith. It's about the wife of the prophet and some things you don't know about. Women of Mormondom. So there are many anti-Mormon books back in the 1800s. I thought it was fun to collect some of those. And so we're going to go downstairs and look at the rest of my library. This is just maybe the ones I use more often. And then downstairs I have stuff that I don't use quite as often. And so the gold plates are up there. It's the manuscript, black and white. And the envelope there has another copy of it in there just in case somebody needed one. And so we'll go downstairs. So now we're in the basement, and this is my Improvement Era section, which is the predecessor to the Ensign magazine, which is down here. So the earlier ones are called Improvement Era, and I've got all kinds of them. This is volume 29, hardback. Over in this case over here, I have volume 1 and 2. And so at the turn of the century, I can just pull these things out and show you what they are. This particular one is volume 3, number 2, 1899, December, Improvement Era. So and just open it up and it's all official stuff. So there you go. This is the predecessor to the Ensign magazine. I do have Ensign magazines. You see dates 1948, 49, 50, 51. So I'm collecting every year up until about about 2000, 2002. I quit collecting because I just had so much stuff I don't need anymore. But I wanted to have this stuff, and one of my buddies called me up and told me that he had this quote. So I'm looking up the quote, and it was like June of 2000, of 1907, something like that. So I pull out the actual Ensign magazine like this out of my library, and this is April 1916 here, and I open up the page number. It's not there. So I've thumbed through the whole magazine. I can't find it in the magazine at all. What that tells me is, if you publish something like that, you're lying. And we're supposed to be men of integrity. We don't lie. So we're going to tell the truth. So I told him, I can't publish that, and neither can you. And he was upset with me. He said, well, you just go get the original magazine. You look at it. It's there. I go, you don't understand. I got it in my hand. I'm looking at it. Where'd you get it? I got it in my library. Well, how come you have it in your library? Well, because I care enough to buy them. So I spent money on these things. So that when somebody says something, I don't care if they're Christian or Mormon or whatever they are, I want to be sure that what I say is not just a repeat of some rumor. I want to say the truth. I want to tell the truth. I think as a Christian, we need to be honorable. We need to be, we need to value the truth. And sometimes we don't value the truth. So this is a lot of stuff clear back from the turn of the century. The next section over here is, I have some improvement errors here that are hardback. They're old ones. This is volume 2 and volume 1, so that's the original improvement error. And then I have things, this is priesthood manuals down here, Relief Society manuals down there. These are Sunday school manuals and family home evenings here. And then this is stuff on Mayas and Incas and that kind of stuff, Indian natives here in America, because, you know, this was supposed to be during their time. So I'm studying that kind of stuff too. And down here we have just other apostles and prophets books down there, and so that's that. Then over in this next section, this top section is on the Book of Abraham. I've got old books, all the books that came out. This is one of the ones by Peterson, the story of the Book of Abraham, the saga of the Book of Abraham. That's a good one there. Deseret book by Todd. And so I'm looking through all the things. I've got the dialogue, a Journal of Mormon Thought here, a couple of those, and I've got some papyrus here. So all kinds of stuff in there about that. Then the next one down, this is the ones that are the Mummy and different things by E.A. Wallace Budge. And he seems to be the guy in the 1800s that really studied it. Then down here, this is my archaeology geography, and each one of these books has arrows pointing, and so I'm looking for the maps in the books, and I compare all the maps. And it's amazing. This particular one, it was a really good one by Paul R. Chisman, and he comes up with really interesting maps and stuff, and I can't show you that right now because we don't have the time. Down below that, I have different books on Mormonism, different versions of gospel principles. This is a really interesting one, hardback, this original gospel principles. And they've changed that book, so the theology changes. They have to change it. They don't like it. Under the Banner of Heaven, this is a very good book. You want to get this one, John Krakauer. And it's amazing, all the things going on in the area of southern Utah. Orrin Porter Rockwell, pretty killer book on him. Man of God, Sons of Thunder. The Sons of Thunder, the thunder they're talking about is the guns going off as they're killing people. So that's an interesting biography there, if you like biographies. Orson Pratt, Writings of an Apostle. This is a fairly rare book now. It used to be pretty popular back in the 70s, but it's got lots of Orson Pratt stuff in there, which you're going to like that. And then the bottom shelf has more stuff that I hardly ever use. And the next one is my giveaway stuff. As a Christian, I feel like it's important to give things away. And so when the Mormons show up, a lot of times they're a Bruce O. McConkie person. They want to have a Mormon doctrine. I've got extras here. I give them a Mormon doctrine, and I show them pages that they don't want to really see, so they can see that there's problems in their own stuff. The Promised Messiah, I'm going to show them the page where it says that they have a testimony of Jesus and how he was the product of God having sex with the Virgin Mary, his daughter. And Mormon Doctrine, second editions, I got a few extra of those. And then Secret History, this is an interesting one where someone else writes about what happened. Eyewitnesses' account of the rise of Mormonism, went back to their home country and exposed Mormonism in their home country. Another Orrin Porter Rockwell, Discourses of President Gordon B. Hinckley, Witnesses for Christ by B.H. Roberts. He's the guy that wrote the history of the church. This is Teaching the Prophet Joseph Smith, a few of those in there. And so these are things I can just give away. They're extras. Cleon Skousen, The First 2,000 Years. This is a really interesting one because in here, Cleon Skousen says God can cease to be God if he does something wrong. So it's interesting how that works. More miracle forgivenesses, Discourses of Brigham Young, Jesus Christ down here, Teachings of Esther Taft Benson. So those just extra stuff that I can give away if I need to. Up here I have the Answers to Gospel Questions by Joseph Fielding Smith, a whole set, and I have an original Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants from the Reorganized Church, and a few Granny Gear books, and some Marvin Cowan books. So you got a few anti-Mormon books up here that I can give away. So a Mormon says, well, I need to read some more about this, I can actually give them something. So Mormon Claims Answered by Marvin Cowan. He lives down in Sandy, Utah, down by Standard Tanner. And then this is Mormonism, Mama and Me by Thelma Granny Gear, and we talked about her earlier. That's her book. So there you are. You got a few things that you see in my library. Up on top I have hats, and I go all over the place. So you've seen the hats earlier, and that's where I store them. So here is my other giveaway section, and this section here I have this book here, which we haven't covered, but I got to show you one page in this book. Book of Mormon Student Manual. And on the back page of this Book of Mormon Student Manual, final page, is a really revealing map. So we do archaeology and geography, and here's a map, and the first word is a problem, possible. Now, if the prophet was able to call God and say, hey, we're trying to find Zarahemla, the River Sidon, can you show us where it's at? You would think you'd get the answer, right? Here it says possible comparative relationships for use of the sites mentioned in the Book of Mormon based on internal evidences. There's no evidence on the internal, it's a story. No effort should be made to identify points on this map with any existing geographical locations. Are you kidding me? So don't ever look and see if you can find Israel or Bethlehem or the Sea of Galilee or nothing like that, because things have changed in the earth. Don't buy it. The narrow neck of land is now a fat, squatty neck of land. Hello, whatever happened to Panama? Isthmus of Panama, the sea is north and south, and this is east and west, or whatever. It doesn't work. So, he's got North Sea and North Sea on that. Then he's got sea east and sea west down here, trying to make it work. It's not going to work. And the final thing is, originally prepared by Daniel H. Ludlow and used by his permission. Why don't you use something made by God? That'd be kind of nice. So anyway, that's a problem, and it's in their student manual. It's on the back page, last page, so most people aren't going to pay enough attention to it, I don't think. Though I got a lot of those because that's good stuff. This book here talks about God having sex with the Virgin Mary. This one does too. And then I have all the scriptures here, extra scriptures, so I run into Christians that don't have them. I get to give them scriptures. And then, of course, the gold set, multiple gold sets, and multiple history of the church. These are all giveaways. So those are extras that I have just to give away. So if somebody decides they want to look into Mormonism, they can have documentation. This is just kind of spare room for stuff. So it's not really well organized. But over in here where it's dark, you can get back over there and I'll point a little bit. This right here is my cult section. So Walter Martin's in here. I've got all different kinds of cult books, clear back in the 1800s. I've got some rare ones back there. In that section over there, the top two shelves are Mormonism, Mama and Me, and things by Sandra and Gerald Tanner. So I've collected a good, at least half to 2/3 of their books. And then below that is ex-Mormons down there, the Mormon Doctrine that's busted right there, the white one. That's Granny Gear's Mormon Doctrine, and I got that when she died. And then all these other books down here are people who've gotten out of the Mormon Church, who've done exposés on Mormonism that are fairly modern. So that goes all the way down there. So this is my anti-Mormon section. I don't get into it as much as I used to because I don't really use that stuff much. There's a green one over here I must mention, Fast Facts on False Teachings by my buddy Dr. Ron Carlson and Ed Decker. The green one over there in the corner, yeah, pretty awesome book. You ought to get that one because that one they actually expose Roman Catholicism too. So that's a rare thing to expose Roman Catholicism these days. People are trying to get along rather than tell the truth. This section over here is my Bible sections. I got Bible commentaries and I've got just a lot of different books. When I was in college, one of my favorite radio guys was Dr. J. Vernon McGee, and I found a hardback set of his Through the Bible Radio notes, and I always liked his notes. I don't agree with everything he said, but boy, he was right on most of it. So I like that really well. It's super sincere guy, super neat. Back in this corner back here, we have Christmas stuff. We better cover that up so the Christmas stuff goes away. Here we have Jehovah's Witnesses Double Deep. Now, this is called the Purple People Eater. Some of you are familiar with that. Interlinear, and it has bad footnotes, things that are claimed that are not true. Behind these books is another set of books back here called the Rainbow Books, and that's stuff by Charles Taze Russell. And then we have Pastor Russell, and we have, who's the guy?
Judge Rutherford or Rutherford?
Rutherford, yeah, Judge Rutherford. So we got Russell, Russell's sermons up here, and Judge Rutherford too. This is the Watchtower reprints. This is actually volume 1, number 1, and this is the very first Watchtower ever printed. Now, no one seems to have one of these, including the Watchtower, but they still had the plates, because they were metal plates, and so they printed them in the hardbound in 1919. So that's volume 1, number 1, July 1879, and that's a reprint by the actual Watchtower itself. And I had to rebind them because they were in a fire. So that's they're worth maybe, I don't know, $2,000 to $4,000 depending on who's buying them. So lots of more money in here for the Jehovah's Witnesses, because I didn't know really about that either. And this is the Seventh-day Adventist here. This particular book says Jesus is Michael the Archangel, and it's on, I think, page 41 or something like that. And then I have yearbooks down here for the Watchtower and Awake magazines. And then over here is the brochure, is the group that I was raised in.
Oh, you have, yeah, okay. Volumes of the Watchtower. I thought you were talking yearbooks.
Yeah, bound volumes.
Yearbooks are pretty awesome
too. I do have yearbooks too, but
cool.
Yeah, you're right. I was wrong on that. This is the very first edition of
Morals and Dogma
by
Masonry
by Albert Pike. The very first edition is a beautiful blue, and so I keep it in the bag here so I don't wear it out. I also have a second edition. So the first edition looks like that. This is the second edition. Right here, it's a more of a brown color. And then I have every edition, every probably 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, clear down until they quit printing them anymore. And they've got another book that they use now. So, but the Morals and Dogmas have very damaging information about Freemasonry. It actually says in there that they willfully deceive those who are initiates. They don't want the initiates to know the truth, and so they deceive them willfully. We're going to go over here and look at this next section over here. This is my creation evolution section, and that's me when I was younger. Notice the shirt hasn't changed. That's me when I was younger. I was handsome. I told you I was handsome. I got pictures to prove it right there. And that would be who? That would be Ken Ham when he was younger and more handsome too. So that was a long time ago. And so I have petrified wood here. I have ash from Mount St. Helens. I've got layered rocks. I have round rocks, square rocks, and triangular rocks here, showing that if you have a basic shape, it could have happened by evolution. In other words, that could have been made by evolution, right? Or was it made by the hands of man? If you think that it could happen by evolution, you're an evolutionist. If you think there's no way that this could happen by random chance, you're not an evolutionist, just don't know it yet. Then we have raindrops here, raindrop fossils. So I'm into fossils. Look at the water patterns on that. It's really cool. I love that. The raindrops push through, so you have them on the bottom. Pretty neat. So the Bible says it rained 40 days and 40 nights. Hello, there's raindrop fossils. Pretty neat. So that's just the basics of my library. I did forget one more, so we're going to come back over here. Roman Catholicism, right here. Catechism of the Catholic Church, the hardbound, the softbound. This is a staple. You need to have that. And then there is the Vatican Council II, and it's in here somewhere. But you need the Vatican Council II so that you actually go through the things that are officially Roman Catholic. And when you do that, you're going to discover that there's major problems in Roman Catholicism. It's not just a Christian religion, it's a false religion.
Yeah, well, if you've got the Muslim God being the same God as the Christian God, as they say in Vatican II, it's definitely a false religion.
We got to read you one.
Ooh, you got
quote.
Vatican II right here. See?
You see Vatican II? Where's
Oh,
it go?
yeah, right there.
Oh, yeah, Vatican II. That's one of them.
Vatican
I've got a set of them, but
II. I
I
like
don't know
that.
where they're all at. But yeah, I pull them out and use them so that I'm going to paragraph 460 to you. So we'll get that one out here real quick. I'll read it for you. Okay, here we go. 460. This is Catechism of the Catholic Church, and it's it says right here, the Holy See reserves all rights to itself. No one is allowed to reprint this catechism or to translate it into another language without the permission of the Holy See. That's the office of the Pope. So this is copywritten by the office of the Pope, and so it's pretty official, I would say. The Word became flesh to make us partakers of the divine nature. For this is why the Word became man, that the Son of Man became the Son of God became the Son of Man, so that man, by entering into communion with the Word, and thus receiving divine sonship, might become a son of God. For the Son of God became man so that we might become God, capital G. Oh. The only begotten Son of God, wanting to make us sharers in his divinity, really? Assumed our nature so that he made man might make man gods. Small g. So there is some problems with Roman Catholicism that most people do not know because they don't do their research. So do your research. Don't argue with me. Argue with those guys right there. They're the ones that printed it. I couldn't say these things if they weren't printed in their official doctrine. So figure that out. If it's their official doctrine, they're the ones you want to talk to. So I get talked to quite a bit. And you can call me if you'd like to, 509-582-5627. It's my cell phone. You'll get a hold of me. And so God bless you. Marshall Almer Road. You have a great day.